When I moved into my home, I never imagined that my biggest fight wouldn't be against my disability, but against my own HOA. Karen, the self-proclaimed queen of the neighborhood, had been harassing me for years. She hated my wheelchair ramp, my accessible van, and even my existence in her perfect community. But when complaints, fines, and threats didn't work, she took things to a whole new level. One night I woke up to find myself chained to my own wheelchair. Karen had broken into my home, stolen my phone, cut me off from help. She thought she had won. But what she didn't know? My security cameras had captured everything. Before we dive into this intense story, we have a small favor to ask. Drop a comment below and tell us where you're watching from. It's always incredible to see how far our stories reach. Thank you so much. Now let's dive in. My name's Ethan Parker, and I've lived in this house for about 5 years now. It's a beautiful single-story home, open spaces, smooth flooring, a wheelchair ramp out front, and even an automatic door system. Everything about it was built for me because, well, I need it to be. See, I've been in a wheelchair since I was 21. Spinal cord injury, a car accident that changed my life in an instant. I won't get into the details, but let's just say I had to relearn everything. How to live independently, how to navigate a world that wasn't designed for people like me, and most of all, how to deal with people who don't think I belong. And Karen, she was at the top of that list. From the moment I moved in, she made it crystal clear that I wasn't welcome. At first, it was the passive-aggressive comments. "Oh, Ethan, I noticed you still have that ramp up. Do you really need it? It's such an eyesore compared to the rest of the neighborhood." Then it was the fake concern. "I just don't think this is the best place for someone like you. Wouldn't a care facility be more comfortable? You know, somewhere where there's proper supervision?" Supervision? I didn't need a damn babysitter. I needed neighbors who minded their own business. Then came the complaints. Karen weaponized the HOA rules against me, even when I wasn't actually breaking any. First, she said my wheelchair ramp violated the community aesthetic and tried to have it removed. I won that battle. ADA laws trump HOA rules. Then she complained about my service dog, Ranger, saying large dogs aren't allowed under HOA pet regulations. Another loss for her. Service animals are federally protected. She even reported my van for being too large for a residential driveway because it had a wheelchair lift. Guess what? Also protected under disability laws. Every single time she tried to push me out, but I wasn't going anywhere. And that infuriated her. She started getting creative with her harassment. One day, my security camera wires were mysteriously cut. Another time, my trash bins went missing, only to show up at the bottom of the neighborhood pond. Then there were the notes, slipped under my door, stuck to my car, taped to my windows. This neighborhood is for real homeowners. Maybe it's time you found a place better suited for someone like you. Stop ruining our property values. That one stung. I worked hard for this house. I owned it outright. I wasn't some renter or someone squatting where I didn't belong. This was my home, and I wasn't about to let some entitled HOA queen bully me into leaving. I did everything right. I reported her to the HOA board. They ignored me. Karen was the HOA board. I filed a complaint with the city. They told me it was a civil matter. And just when I thought it couldn't get worse, Karen took things to a whole new level. She tried to make me disappear. I didn't know it yet, but one night she was going to make her move, and it would be the biggest mistake of her life. The first thing I felt was the cold metal digging into my wrists. My head pounded, a dull, throbbing ache settling in as I slowly regained consciousness. Everything around me was hazy, my body sluggish, like I was swimming through a fog I couldn't shake. I tried to move my arms. They wouldn't budge. A sharp panic shot through me as I tried again, harder this time. My fingers twitched, my muscles strained, but I was stuck. Something was holding me down. I blinked hard, my vision clearing just enough to see my hands bound to my wheelchair. Chains, thick metal chains wrapped around my wrists and the armrests of my chair padlocked in place. My legs, too. A cold shiver ran down my spine as I tried again, this time desperate. The chair rocked slightly beneath me, but I wasn't going anywhere. I was trapped. Panic surged through me like wildfire. What the hell was happening? My breathing grew ragged as I frantically looked around, my room dimly lit by the flickering glow of the street lamp outside. My bed was untouched, my lamp still on. My phone. Where was my phone? And then I saw her, standing near the foot of my bed, arms crossed, staring down at me with a twisted look of triumph. Karen. I felt my blood run cold. She wasn't outside my house this time. She wasn't lurking by the mailbox or peeking over my fence like usual. She was inside. She was in my bedroom. My throat went dry. I could barely get the words out. "What the hell, Karen?" She smiled. She actually smiled, like this was funny, like she had just pulled a harmless little prank and wasn't standing over me after breaking into my home and tying me to my own damn chair. I yanked at the chains again, hard. The metal rattled, but it didn't give. What the hell did you do to me?" My voice was hoarse, shaky, my heart slamming against my ribs. Karen tilted her head, her face eerily calm, too calm. "I gave you a chance, Ethan," she said, her voice smooth, almost mocking. "I told you this wasn't the place for you." My jaw clenched. "You broke into my house." She let out a slow, dramatic sigh. "And you broke the rules, again and again and again." She shook her head, clicking her tongue. "You never listened." I swallowed hard. My mind was racing. How did she even get in? And then I saw it. My window. It was wide open, the curtains fluttering gently in the night breeze. My stomach dropped. She must have waited for me to fall asleep and climbed in, or maybe she had been hiding inside the house all along. I felt sick. Karen followed my gaze, then smirked. "Oh, don't look so shocked," she said. "This is what happens when people like you don't follow the rules." I clenched my fists, my pulse hammering. "What do you want?" I gritted out. Karen took a step forward, her expression darkening. "I want you gone." Her voice was cold, dead serious. I sucked in a breath, trying to stay calm, trying to think. You can't just do this," I said, forcing my voice to stay level. "This is illegal, Karen. You know that, right?" Her lips curled. "Oh, Ethan, no one's going to believe you." Something twisted in my gut. She had planned this. She had thought it through, knew exactly what she was doing. I wasn't just dealing with an entitled HOA Karen anymore. I was dealing with someone who was willing to cross every line to get what she wanted. And I had no idea what she was going to do next. I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. Too fast, too loud. Karen took another slow step toward me, tilting her head like she was studying me. "You look nervous, Ethan," she said, voice light, almost amused, like this was a game to her. I forced my breathing to slow. I couldn't let her see fear. I was tied down, my body locked into place, but my mind? My mind was still my own. So I swallowed back the panic burning in my throat and forced myself to focus. Think. "Let me go, Karen," I said, keeping my voice calm and firm. "Right now, you're making a mistake." Karen's lips twitched. She was enjoying this. She walked over to my nightstand, running her fingers along the surface like she owned the place. My phone was nowhere to be seen. She must have taken it. Damn it. "See, Ethan, this is the problem with people like you." She turned, shaking her head. "You think you can just ignore the rules, that you can do whatever you want just because the world feels sorry for you?" My fingers curled into fists. "No one feels sorry for me, Karen." She laughed, a cold, condescending little laugh that made my skin crawl. "Oh, come on. You really think anyone in this neighborhood sees you as one of us?" She waved a hand around the room. "This house? It should have gone to a real homeowner, not someone who—" She stopped, eyes flicking to my wheelchair, and I could see the disgust behind her fake smile. "Not someone like you." She didn't have to say it. I heard it anyway. Anger burned in my chest, but I kept my face blank. I couldn't let her get to me, not now. "You know this is kidnapping, right?" I said, keeping my voice steady. "Unlawful imprisonment, breaking and entering. You're looking at serious time, Karen." She sighed, shaking her head like I was a misbehaving child. "Always so dramatic," she muttered. "No one's going to see this as anything more than a misunderstanding." I stiffened. "What do you mean?" Karen smirked and walked to the window, peering outside as if she were waiting for something. "Let's just say," she said, turning back toward me, "that by tomorrow morning, it won't matter." A chill crawled up my spine. What the hell was she planning? I yanked at the chains again, harder this time. My arms burned with the effort, but the restraints held firm. "Relax, Ethan," she said, mocking me. "You'll be fine as long as you finally do the right thing." I swallowed hard. "And what's that?" Her smile turned sharp. "Leave." She walked over, standing right in front of me now, close enough that I could see the gleam in her eyes, the way her fingers tapped against the padlock on my wrist restraints. "You don't belong here," she said, voice dropping lower. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going to wake up tomorrow, call a moving company, and put this house on the market. You're going to leave." I stared at her. She was serious. This wasn't just about harassment anymore. This was a full-blown eviction by force. "You really think this is going to work?" I asked, forcing a laugh. "You think I'm just going to, what, magically decide to sell my home because you locked me in my own chair for a night?" Her smile didn't falter. "Not just tonight," she said. The air left my lungs. "What?" Karen crouched down slightly so we were at eye level. "Ethan, sweetie," she cooed, "if you won't leave on your own, well, maybe you just disappear." My blood turned ice cold. She wouldn't. No, she would. She wasn't planning on letting me go. I was officially in danger. I forced myself to stay calm, to think there had to be a way out. I glanced toward my desk where my emergency call button was usually placed. Gone. Damn it. I scanned the room again, looking for anything that could help me. Karen followed my gaze and smirked. "Looking for this?" She pulled my phone from her pocket. And then, right in front of me, she powered it off. I clenched my jaw. "People will look for me," I said, keeping my voice even. "My nurse comes by twice a week. My physical therapist, too. My neighbor checks in." Karen rolled her eyes. "And when they find out you're sick in bed and not taking visitors for a while, they'll move on." She had thought of everything. My stomach twisted. She was isolating me, cutting me off. If I didn't find a way out soon, she would keep me locked up in my own home. For how long? Days? Weeks? Long enough to force me into selling, or worse. No, I had to stop this. But I had no phone, no emergency button. No one even knew this was happening. I was alone, trapped, and running out of time. I had never felt true helplessness before. Sure, I had struggled. The day I woke up in a hospital bed and realized I'd never walk again, that was tough. Learning how to navigate a world that wasn't designed for people like me, also tough. But this, being chained to my own wheelchair in my own home, while a woman who hated me decided my fate, this was terror. I forced myself to breathe, think. Karen was standing by the window again, her arms crossed, looking out into the dark like she was waiting for something. That made me nervous, because if Karen had planned all of this, she wasn't working alone. Who was she waiting for? I yanked at the chains again, trying to test their strength. Too tight, too secure. My wrists burned from struggling, but I didn't care. Karen turned back to me, smirking. "You can pull all you want, Ethan. You're not going anywhere." I gritted my teeth. "You seriously think you're going to get away with this?" She sighed dramatically, walking toward my dresser and picking up a picture frame, a photo of me and my sister. "You know," she said, turning the frame in her hands, "it really didn't have to come to this." I clenched my jaw. "Yes, Karen, it did. Because you couldn't stand the fact that I live here, that I have a home, that I exist." She snapped her eyes to me, her fake little smirk finally cracking. "You're right. I can't stand it." There it was. The truth. She had never pretended to be reasonable, but at least now she wasn't hiding. "You're ruining this neighborhood," she sneered. "With your ramp, your ugly van, your stupid—" She gestured to me, to my chair, and I felt something in me snap. I was done. Done playing along. Done pretending she was just a crazy HOA lady. She was a criminal, and I was getting the hell out of here. I didn't have a phone. I didn't have my emergency button. But I had one thing. My chair. Karen had been so confident chaining me down she hadn't even considered what my wheelchair was capable of. I glanced at my lap, where the control panel sat, the small joystick, the button interface. Karen was still monologuing. She had no idea. I took a slow, deep breath, and then I pressed the button. The emergency tilt function. Instantly, the seat tilted backward at a sharp angle, pulling against the chains. Karen's head snapped toward me. "What are you—" Crack, the sound of metal straining. My chest tightened. It was working. I did it again, tilted further. Another snap. Karen's face twisted. "Stop that!" I ignored her. She lunged forward. Too late. The padlock on my wrist restraint snapped open. One arm. Free. And that was all I needed. Karen reached for me, furious. I threw my arm up, blocking her grasp. "Stop it!" she shrieked, grabbing at the chains, trying to tighten them again. I slammed my elbow into her shoulder. She stumbled back. For 1 second, she looked stunned, like she couldn't believe I was actually fighting back. That was her mistake. I jerked my other arm free, grabbing at the chains around my legs. 1, 2, I could move. And just as Karen lunged again, I kicked my foot forward, slamming it into her knee. She screamed, collapsing to the floor. I didn't hesitate. I rolled forward, fast, wrenching the rest of the chains loose and knocking her aside. She hit the nightstand with a loud crash. My heart was pounding, my arms burned, my head was still fuzzy, but I was free. And Karen? She was on the ground, groaning, trying to get back up. I spun my chair toward the door. Escape. That was all that mattered. I rolled into the hallway, heading straight for the front door. Karen's footsteps pounded behind me. She was screaming, "You can't leave! You're not supposed to leave!" I ignored her. The front door was so close. Then I saw them, the red and blue lights. My breath hitched. Police. 2 patrol cars had pulled up outside. Officers were already stepping onto my lawn, their radios buzzing. And that's when I knew. Karen wasn't waiting for help. She was waiting for the cops, because she thought she had everything covered. That when they showed up, she'd tell them some sob story, that I was unstable or a threat, and they'd take her side. But she hadn't planned on me escaping. She hadn't planned on the cops seeing her chase me down the hallway, screaming like a lunatic. She hadn't planned on me reaching the door first. I threw it open, wheeling onto the porch. "Help!" I shouted, my voice shaking. She broke in! She tried to trap me in my house!" The officer's head snapped toward me. Karen skidded to a stop behind me, and for the first time, she looked afraid. One of the officers stepped forward. "Sir, are you all right?" I nodded, trying to steady my breathing. She chained me up," I stammered, "took my phone, locked me in my wheelchair." The second officer's expression darkened. "She what?" Karen let out a choked laugh. This is a misunderstanding," she gasped. He's just confused." I looked her dead in the eye. "Check my security cameras," I said. Karen went pale. The officers exchanged a glance. One of them reached for his radio. Karen's breathing hitched, and then she did something incredibly stupid. She turned to run. Too late. A pair of strong hands grabbed her arms, yanking them behind her back. "Karen, last name," the officer said calmly, snapping the handcuffs into place. "You're under arrest for unlawful imprisonment, breaking and entering, and assault." She let out a piercing scream. "No, no, this isn't—" She thrashed, but they hauled her toward the patrol car. And just like that, it was over. The moment Karen was shoved into the back of the patrol car, I finally let myself breathe. My arms felt like they had been set on fire from struggling against those chains. My wrists were red and raw. My head was still pounding. But none of that mattered, because I was free. And Karen? Karen was done. I watched as the officers secured her in the back seat, her muffled screams of protest barely audible through the closed door. "You don't understand! He's lying! He's dangerous! This is my neighborhood!" The officer next to me sighed. "Sir, do you need medical attention?" I shook my head. "No, I let out a sharp breath, still trying to process everything. "I just want this to be over." The cop nodded. "Let's go inside. We'll need your full statement." I rolled back into my home, every muscle in my body aching. The officers followed, their flashlights sweeping the room, and the moment they saw the chains on the floor, the look they exchanged, pure disbelief. One of them crouched down, inspecting the broken restraints. "Jesus," he muttered. "She really did this?" I let out a humorless laugh. "Yeah, she did." The other officer moved toward the window, the one Karen had climbed through. "Looks like breaking and entering is going to stick." I turned toward them, voice hoarse. "She took my phone too, probably somewhere in the house." One of them nodded, stepping toward the nightstand. And there it was, my phone, powered off, tucked behind a lamp. The officer held it up with a pair of gloves. "We'll bag this for evidence. Any chance you have security cameras?" I almost laughed. "Oh, Karen, you really screwed yourself." Yeah, I said, motioning toward my computer. I have full security footage of everything. The officers looked at each other, their expressions shifting. Well, one of them said, pulling out a notepad, that's the end of her story. They kept her in the car for over an hour while they processed everything. Even from my front porch, I could hear her fighting. I'm the victim. He attacked me. This is a setup. I want my lawyer. You can't do this. I'm on the HOA board. The officers didn't care. By the time they finally drove off, taking her with them, Karen was red-faced, furious, and still screaming. I just sat there watching, and for the first time since moving here, I felt safe. Karen's charges were serious: breaking and entering unlawful imprisonment, theft for stealing my phone, assault. I didn't even have to push the case forward. The state picked it up. With the security footage, the 911 call, and my testimony, it was an open and shut case. Karen tried everything to save herself. She hired lawyers. She pleaded temporary insanity. She even tried to claim I was a danger to the neighborhood, that she was acting in self-defense. None of it worked, because once the rest of the neighborhood saw what she had done, they turned on her. The HOA had backed her for years, but after her arrest made the local news, they voted her out. Not just out of the HOA board, out of the community. Karen lost everything. She was forced to sell her house and move out before her trial even started. For the first time in years, I could just exist. No more harassment, no more complaints, no more watching my back every time I left the house. People in the neighborhood actually started talking to me. The same people who used to avoid me at meetings were suddenly on my side. And as for me, I upgraded my security system. Better cameras, more motion sensors, reinforced locks. No one was ever breaking into my home again, especially not another Karen. It took 6 months for her case to finally go through court. I didn't even attend the final hearing. I didn't need to, because when the verdict came in, it was everything I could have hoped for. Karen pleaded guilty to a reduced sentence. She got 2 years of probation, mandatory community service, a restraining order that forbade her from ever coming near me or my property again. And best of all, she now had a criminal record, from HOA queen to convicted felon. One day, a few months after her trial, I was sitting on my porch drinking coffee, and I saw a moving truck drive by. Karen's old house had new owners now, a young couple, nice people. They stopped by that afternoon to introduce themselves, and when I told them I had lived here for years, you know what they said? "Oh, so you knew Karen?" I grinned. "Yeah, I knew Karen." They laughed. "Guess we dodged a bullet moving in after she left, huh?" I raised my coffee mug, smirking. You have no idea. If you enjoyed this crazy HOA story, please like, comment, and subscribe. Have you ever dealt with a nightmare HOA president? Let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear your stories.